company financial statements and standards. So we need to have the format first. No, the format take it the right. So we'll take this. Normally, we need the statement of profit or loss for the year ending 31st March 2023. Sales, cost of sales, gross profit, other income, distribution, admin, other and finance expense. Before tax profit, income tax, profit or loss. We have a revaluation surplus, so you can have change in revaluation surplus. Right? Then the statement of financial position, 31st March 2023. There we have non-current asset. Under that, we have property, plant and equipment, right of use asset and intangible asset. Then inventory, we have a financial asset fair value through P&L. Trade receivable, cash and bank. Then non-current liability, we have financial liability and lease liability. Trade receivable, cash and cash equivalent. Then the statement of changes in equity, you can have the opening balance, profit, change in revaluation surplus and the dividend and the closing balance. We can have the categories of equity, ordinary shares, revaluation reserve and retained earning. Property, plant and equipment, we have building, office equipment and that's it. Property, plant and equipment. We have building and office equipment, 2 assets only. Because motor vehicle is the lease asset, no? Yeah. එනිසා මෙතන asset categories දෙකයි තියෙන්නේ. Building and office equipment and total. There's a revaluation of building. So which result transfer of accumulated depreciation also, right? So 22, 23. So you can have the structure first. And you can start making the adjustments, right? So මම ඉස්සරලා විනාඩි 10ක් විතර දෙන්නම් මේ ටික structure එක හොඳට ලියා ගන්න ඕනේ, right? You can have the structure. Same time you can then you can start with the additional information. can have the structure making adjustment. I'll give it for that. First of all, you better have the structure. Right here, now you can even have this expense working. Yeah, you need the working for expenses. You can take the trial balance figures, other income, distribution, finance, and other. Right now here we can start with the given trial balance figures. Distribution 31,500 and other income 18,500. Okay, you can start with other income 18,500 and distribution 31,500. Admin expenses 35,500. Other expenses 4,000 and finance expense 16,000. These are the expenses already recognized, right? In the trial balance. So we can take those expenses. Then we can take one by one additional information. Now the first additional information about the financial asset. Financial asset. This is from LKS 32 and SLFRS 9, right? Can you attempt this one? So I am giving this time you to attend for the activity, right? So because in final examination, you have to do this type of activity by yourself. So in 5 minutes time, I will start the discussion. So try to complete the basic adjustments, at least the core part. Okay, right. So we take one by one additional information. Now, the first additional information, you see that the financial asset represent 200,000 shares issued at 3 million. So if we prepare the financial asset account here, right, I'll take this for financial asset. Financial asset account, we have a balance of 60,000. Trial balance, we have financial asset 61,000, sorry. Financial asset 61,000, right? I'll color the items that I have already identified. We got these 4 expenses and other income. Already taken to our workings. And now I am taking financial asset 61,000. And it is told the financial asset consists of 200,000 ordinary shares at 300 each. Transaction cost is capitalized to cost of the financial asset. Then you are given company held these shares for trading purpose. If the company held these shares for trading purpose, you can't capitalize the transaction cost. So that should be charged to P&L as an expense. The transaction cost of financial asset at fair value through P&L. 1,000 you can add as the finance expense, add to the other expense. Debit other expense by crediting the financial asset. So we can credit transaction cost 1,000 to the financial asset account and debit that into other expense. Right, I'll put the charge on. Okay. Now, end of the year, the market price of a share is 280. 300 reduced to 280. 280 into 200. Balance carried forward. $280 into 200. 56,000. That means there is a loss charged to P&L. 3,000 loss, 4,000 loss. Make it 61,000. So we can have loss on change in financial asset. 4,000. Loss on change in financial asset 4,000. So the trial balance figure 61,000 that include transaction cost has been capitalized. If this is a financial asset at fair value through OCI, then transaction cost can be added. In that case, the resulting gain or loss charged to other comprehensive. Right? Here the other way. Transaction cost is added, which is wrong. We remove and take it into expense. So you can take this closing balance into the statement of financial position. Financial asset at fair value through OCI 56,000. 6,000. Is taken from the working. And the second one, the debenture issued. So we can have the debenture account also. Financial liability debenture account. So debenture account given balance, trial balance, we have debentures 60,000. And the interest, 20% interest, and the effective interest rate 24%. Coupon rate 20%. Coupon rate interest payment should credit cash and debit financial liability. And effective interest rate expense you should debit P&L and credit financial liability. The transaction cost 600,000 including other expense. That is wrong. First, you can take this transaction cost, which should be debited to financial liability account. Transaction cost on debenture issue. At the moment, this transaction cost is included in other expenses. So you can remove that 600 from other expense. Deduct from other expense. And debit that into debenture account, financial liability. Debenture. So the debenture account, debit and credit the expense. The interest paid is 20% on this 600,000. 12,000, which is erroneously included in finance expense. So we can remove this from finance expense. Interest paid on debenture. 12,000. Credit expense and debit to the financial liability account, debenture account. Then we have to calculate the correct interest expense. Correct interest expense, which is 60,000 minus 60,000 is the issue price minus 600 transaction cost from this 24%. Because we issued for 60,000, but we spent transaction cost 600. So it is 59,400 into 24%. 14,256. That is the finance expense. Charge to P&L. 14,256. So this 14,256 can credit to the debenture account. So altogether, now you can find the balance carried forward of debenture. This is the amortized cost of financial liability. $61,656. 61,656. Value of the debenture. So you can take it financial liability debenture. $61,656. right? Third addition, company enter into a lease agreement. Down payment 3,999, and the initial measurement of lease liability 5,985. First installment 2001. So the installment and the down payment is recorded as the right of use asset. So basically, your right of use asset, we have a balance, which is 6,000. Right? This 6,000 consists of 3,999 plus 2001. 6,000. But correct lease liability, initial measurement of lease liability, we should debit right of use asset account and credit lease liability account. Which is $5,985. Right of use asset debit, lease liability credit. Then you can keep the down payment within right of use asset, but the first installment 2001 erroneously debited right of use asset. That should credit right of use asset and debit the lease lease liability account. Installment එක ගෙවද්දි liability එකෙන් අඩු වෙන්නේ. Right of use asset දැන්ට වැඩිපුර debit කරලා තියෙනවා. 6,000 include 2001 installment, first installment. So we remove it and debit to the lease liability account. Then the lease interest, the applicable lease interest rate is 20%. So this lease liability opening balance into 20%. 2001 include 1,197 interest, lease interest. Remove it and taken into the expense, interest on lease. Taken under finance expense. 1,197. Credit lease liability, debit, finance expense, interest. Now with that, you can have the carried forward balance of right of use asset. And the carried forward balance of lease liability. Then you know that this lease liability you have to divide between current and non-current. So how much the current portion of lease liability? So you can take lease installment next year Lease liability current portion. Lease installment 2001. From that deduct interest applicable for next year. Outstanding balance 5,181 for that 20% interest. So 5,181 into 20%. Interest applicable to next year 1,036. When you remove it from 2001, 965 is the current portion of the lease liability. Current. Lease liability non-current. Lease liability non-current. The total lease liability 5,181. From that you deduct 965 current part. So 5,181 minus 965. 4,260. 4,260.
Excuse me, sir. Sir. Sir.
So we can show this lease liability current.
So we can't see the screen.
Lease liability non-current 4,216. And lease liability current 965. $965. Then the right of use asset. We have right of use asset original value. Carried forward 9,984. Value of right of use asset. From that, you can deduct the depreciation. Depreciation on right of use asset. $9,984. Depreciate over useful life 8 years. The lease period is 5 years. And ownership transfer to lessee end of the lease term. So since the ownership transfer to lessee, we can depreciate over the lease term, not over the use. We can depreciate over the useful life. not over the lease term. But the lease term එක අවුරුදු 5 වුණාට අවුරුදු 5 අවසානයේ ownership එක ලැබෙනවා. ඒ හින්දා අවුරුදු 8ම පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන්. So you can depreciate over 8 years. If it is given the other way, useful life of a motor vehicle is 8 years. However, ownership does not transfer at end of the lease term. If that is the case, you cannot use this for 8 years, even though normal useful life of a motor vehicle is 8 years. But this motor vehicle we can use only for 5 years if ownership does not transfer end of the lease term. So in that case, you have to depreciate over 5 years only. Motor vehicles, I consider it is used for administrative purpose. Distribution purpose 9,984 divided by 8. Right? So this depreciation you can deduct 1,248. So 9,984 minus 1,248. Carrying amount of right of use asset is 8,796. 8,796. Right. So then, so we have taken 1, 2, 3 for the revaluation of building. Building revalued first time and resulted a surplus of 5.5 million. Now this 5.5 million is appearing in the revaluation reserve at the moment. So this should be the revaluation reserve opening balance, right? So I will take that 5,500 revaluation reserve in the statement of changes in equity opening balance. And now we have building at valuation 500,000 and accumulated depreciation of building 100,000. Building at valuation 500,000 opening balance. And accumulated depreciation of building 100,000. And 2018 to 2018 first time, the remaining useful life was 20 years. And 20 years කියන්නේ annual depreciation තියෙන්න ඕනේ 500,000 divided by 20. 25,000. So beginning of the current year, 25,000 into 4 years gone. 19, 20, 21, 22. So that is why we have 100,000 balance. Current year depreciation, you can go ahead with the same. Depreciation of building, I'll take as administrative expenses. $500,000 divided by 20. So 25,000. This year depreciation 25,000. Can take this into the depreciation for building 25,000. Current year depreciation. For the year 25,000. And now altogether we have 125,000 accumulated depreciation. This should be transferred on the revaluation. When you revalue, you have to transfer this accumulated depreciation. Transfer of accumulated depreciation 125. So which make the carrying amount to 375. 375 carrying amount now. So we have already taken the right of use asset. And building at valuation already considered. Accumulated depreciation we are taking now. So second time revaluation for 365. Now here we have 375. Revalue for 365 means we have a deficit of 10,000. Revaluation deficit 10,000. Now out of this 10,000, 5,500 is the reversal of previous surplus. Here we have 5,500 previous surplus. So you can reverse this 5,500. Negative other comprehensive income minus figure. right? So then the balance for 50,000, 45,000, 4,500 you can charge to revaluation deficit to other expenses. The balance out of 10,000, 5,500 debit to OCI and 4,500 charge to P&L, revaluation deficit. Right. So the building year-end balance should be the revalued amount, 365,000. Then we'll take office equipment. The office equipment opening accumulated depreciation balance is 120,000. And office equipment, there were addition to office equipment. Only addition to PPE is the office equipment acquired 80 million. And the office equipment closing balance 280. So that include 80 during the addition. That means opening office equipment should be 200,000. And current year addition 80,000 properly accounted. We have a balance of 280. Now depreciation for the year, 200 depreciate full year at 20%. So depreciation of office equipment 200,000 into 20% plus 80,000 into 20% into 6 months only, because this was acquired on 1st October. So that office equipment depreciation 200,000 into 20% plus 80,000, 20% into 6 months. Altogether 48,000, 200,000 to 20%, 40,000, 80,000 into 20% into 6 months, 8,000. 48,000 is the depreciation. $48,000. So you can take it into the accumulated depreciation 48. So here you get the total. So the carrying amount is 477,000. Oh, this is correct, right? So PP naught, we can complete 477,000. Or 77. Then we have an intangible asset, patent acquired beginning of the year. The useful life 20 years. So patent acquired intangible asset 800,000. So 800,000 into divide by 20 years. You can have the amortization of intangible asset. Amortization of intangible asset 800 divided by 20. Right, intangible asset 800,000 divided by 20. $40,000, I take it for admin expenses. 40. Amortization 40. So intangible asset can have 800,000 minus 40. Now then it becomes 760. If no other additional information, you can keep it at 760. But you are given value in use and fair value less cost to sell 768. So you have to take the recoverable amount 700. The carrying amount now 760. There is further 60,000 impairment loss. You have recognized impairment loss of intangible asset. Impairment loss of intangible asset, which is 760,000 is the carrying amount, whereas the recoverable amount 700,000. So 60,000 difference. Impairment loss. අන්තිමට intangible asset එක පෙන්නන්න ඕන recoverable amount of 700,000. Intangible asset 700,000. Finally, the income tax. Income tax liability 900,000. For the last year, tax paid 2,800, 9,000 current year, 2,800 payment for the last year. And we have income tax liability for the last year, 2,500. So 2,500, actual payment 2,800. So there's a 300 under provision. So you can have the income tax expense for the year, 9,000 for the current year, 300 under provision for the last year. It should be income tax expense, 9,000 for the current year. Last year under provision 300. Because we have recognized 2,500, actual payment 2,800. So 300 less. So tax expense is 9,300. Tax expense 9,300. Tax payable liability out of the 9,000. How much we have paid during the current year? Tax paid 8,500 payment. But this 8,500 include 2,800 for the last year. So payment for this year is 8,500 minus 2,800 for last year, only 5,700. For this year payment is 5,700. Right? So out of the total 9,000, 5,700 paid. The balance 3,300 payable. Tax payable is 3,300. Right. So we can take the remaining balances from the trial balance. Inventory, cash, and trade receivables. You can directly take those balances. Inventory 37,500. Trade receivable and cash 62,500. And cash 7,500. Then trade payable 75,000. And stated capital and retained earning, you can take them into the statement of changes in equity 950,000 and 300,500. Stated capital 950,000. Should be the opening balance also. Retained earning 300,500. Then sales and cost of sales. Sales 550,000. Cost of sales 320,000. So the difference gross profit, a calculated figure. And finally, we have the dividend 12,000. 12,000 dividend you can take into the statement of changes in equity, 12,000 dividend. So profit for the year you can add to the retained earning. And change in revaluation surplus 5,500 minus, that you can take it here. Wrong. Wait, I have not taken this profit calculation, right? So I have to take these other income expenses, that part I have not completed. So we'll take these expenses and other income for profit calculation. Take all this. Other income, distribution expense, other expense, finance expense. Take the totals. And we can have these totals now. We are adding other income. And deducting distribution expense, admin expense, other expense, and finance expense. You ended up with a loss. So now it's tally for 1,349,236. Now this is the type of activity you will be tested at your examination, right? For 30 marks. So you should be able to work out this type of activity within 1 hour time. Right? So you need a practice, right? මේකට මට පැය දෙකකට කිට්ටු කාලයක් ගියා එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කර කර හදන්න. නමුත් මේක ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කරන කෙනෙක්ට පැයෙන් හදන්න පුළුවන්. Can take about 10 minutes to read the question. Then within another 5 minutes you can have the structure. Structure ඉඩ තියලා හදාගන්න. Right? Statement of profit or loss, you can have the heading. Balance sheet, non-current asset, leave some space. Current asset, leave some space. Equity, leave some space. Non-current liability, leave some space. 3-4 lines. Then when you are taking the adjustment, you can have the line item. So ගාන කියවලා ස්ට්‍රක්චර් එක ගහගන්න විනාඩි 20ක් ගියොත් ඔක්කොම. ඊට පස්සේ ඉතුරු විනාඩි 40 ඇතුළත මේක ඇඩ්ජස්ට්මන්ට් ටික හදන්න පුළුවන්. විනාඩි 30කින් වගේ ඔයාලට පුළුවන් ඇඩ්ජස්ට්මන්ට් ටික ඔක්කොම හදලා finally 10 minutes වලින් total කරන්න. So you better practice this. Okay. So I'll give you a short break now. Right? And we will start in 15 minutes time and continue the discussion. Right? අපි විනාඩි 15ක ටී බ්‍රේක් එකක් අරගෙන ඉදිරියට continue කරමු. Okay, right. So basically now we have completed the syllabus, right? So we will take the test plan. Now you are familiar. Now you will be tested a company question like this structure, right? Full company question for 30 marks. Right. So if I take this for the test plan, so we'll take question 1. Preparation of financial statement of a company for publication. Right. So you'll be tested the same areas what we are discussed. Statement of profit or loss. So you need the LKS1 knowledge, that is the format of statement of profit or loss and OCI, what is to be recognized under OCI, and statement of financial position, statement of changes in equity, PP note. Then you will be tested LKS 32 and SLFRS 9, financial instrument, right, with this question. And you will be tested SLFRS 16 leases, and you will be tested LK 16 PPE, and LKS 38 intangible assets, LKS 36 impairment, and the income tax adjustment relating to LKS 12. Not the deferred tax, that will be tested separately, but the basic income tax adjustment that also coming from LKS 12. So that's why I told you basically same standards. SLFRS 32, 9, SLFRS 16, LKS 16, LKS 36, 38, 12, right? Those standard will be tested. This is for 30 marks. For 30 marks. Then you will be having the question 2, preparation of consolidated financial statements. So consolidated financial statements, so that is based on SLFRS 3, 10, LKS 28 associate. So here you will be tested, since we had 10 marks, we had the consolidated balance sheet in our classroom test. So this 20 marks question, you will be tested consolidated statement of profit or loss and OCI together with goodwill, consolidated retained earning workings. So you are not asking the full balance sheet. You will be given information, basically income statement information, as well as some additional information to calculate the goodwill and consolidated retained earning. So you need that workings, right? Just for 20 marks. So 20 marks means you have to work out that within around 40 minutes, right? That is question number 2. Consolidated statement of profit or loss. Where we had this so basically, you will be tested the goodwill calculation with consolidated financial statement. So goodwill calculation, you need the investment, fair value of non-controlling interest, right? If I just take this first activity for an example, just to remind you the goodwill calculation. So Alpha acquired 75% of ordinary shares of Beta, investment 27 million. When the ordinary share capital and the retained earning 18 million and 12 million, retained earning of the Alpha 25 million, and Beta 18 million. Fair value of non-controlling interest 6 million. So the goodwill calculation, we need investment we have investment 27 million in 27,000, and we take fair value of NCI, non-controlling interest, which is 6 million. Altogether, we could have acquired the 100% of the subsidiary for 33 million. 33 million. Then what is the fair value of net asset? Here we have retained earning and stated capital. Stated capital at the date of acquisition 18 million. Retained earning 12 million. Sometimes there may be fair value adjustment. Right? We have discussed when we have fair value adjustment, we have to take that into consideration. Now this question we don't have fair value adjustment. So simply it is 18 plus 12, 30,000. But if there is a fair value, you have to consider that also. You may be given the fair value of net asset, either different value or there is an excess of fair value. So you have to take that into consideration. The fair value exceed the book value by 2 million. Here it should be 32 million, 30 plus that 2. Right? So in this activity, we don't have it. So finally, here we get the finally the difference, the goodwill. The goodwill is 3,000. For the 33,000 investment, we can acquire 30,000 worth net asset. So the extra amount is for the goodwill. Likewise, you should be able to calculate the goodwill. Right. Then you will be tested consolidated income statement. The complete question that we had this company accounts due to sorry, this is company account. Consolidated financial statement. Right. Here we had this consolidated financial statement, complete statement of profit or loss. Right. So if I take this statement of consolidated financial statements, this classroom activity part 2, there we had this complete activity statement of profit or loss, and there you were given even statement of financial position, full activity, full balance sheet. But in your examination, you will not be tested the full balance sheet. Instead, you will be given the statement of profit or loss, and some of these balance sheet information you to calculate the goodwill and group reserves, consolidated revaluation, consolidated retained earning, and NCI actually, right? So I missed that, no? Here, consolidated statement of profit or loss, goodwill and goodwill, consolidated retained earning, working, retained earning and NCI working. Working අදාළ වෙන්නේ මේ තුනට, right? Statement of profit or loss and OCI statement, and you need working of goodwill, consolidated retained earning and NCI. That is for 20 marks. Right. So you'll be given the information like this, and which including associate. So small adjustments related to associate also will be included there. Right. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ activity එක හොඳට if you can practice this one, right, this will cover most of the information adjustments, right? මේක සාමාන්‍ය මේක මම පන්ති 7 කිව්වා examination level එකට එන question එකක් තමයි මේක තියෙන්නේ, right? එතන මේ level එකට question එකක් ආවම අපිට ලකුණු 30කට වගේ යන්න වෙනවා full balance sheet එක එන්න නිසා. නමුත් අපි මේක full balance sheet එකට යන්නේ නැති නිසා ලකුණු 20කට එන්නේ statement of profit or loss and the workings. Then the question number 3. Accounting standards. Separately 30 marks. Right. Standards ගත්තහම එතන තියෙනවා LKS 32 and SLFRS 9, that is financial instrument. SLFRS 16 leases. LKS 19 employee benefit. LKS 12 is income tax. LKS 36 impairment. These 5 standards will be tested for 30 marks. I will give the details. Just give me 5 minutes, right? I will start in 5 minutes time. Okay, right. So it's just we'll continue. So here now LKS 32 and SLFRS 9 financial instrument. So we have already taken some of the aspect of financial instrument in our company question, right? The company එකේදී සාමාන්‍යයෙන් basic financial instrument, financial asset, financial liability check වෙනවනේ. Right? එතන check නොවන අනිත් කොටසක් standards වලට එන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් උදාහරණයකට fair value through P&L එකක් අතන check වුණොත් මෙතන fair value through OCI එකක් එන්න පුළුවන්. Financial asset at amortized cost එතන check නොවුනොත් මෙතන check වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So you are expected to go through these activities, financial instrument. So the financial liability tested with the company accounts. So some financial liability test in then compound financial instrument we discuss, and derivatives. Those aspects can be tested with the standard question, right? So make a samhar velawat in addition to calculation, some theoretical aspects also will be tested, some conceptual areas. For example, to differentiate these type of financial assets, or differentiate financial asset at fair value through OCI and financial asset at amortized cost. So make accounting treatments taken, right? Financial asset at fair value through P&L and financial asset at amortized cost again, right? May they differentiate කරන්න කිව්වොත්. So මේ වගේ table එක තියෙන ඒ වලින් ඔයාලට පුළුවන් එක differentiate කරන්න. Then derivatives, type of derivatives. Derivative and compound financial instrument, right? මේ දෙක differentiate කරන්න කිව්වොත් what is derivative, what is compound financial statement. Then type of derivative, differentiate call option, put option, option and the forward contract, right? Likewise, should be able to differentiate them. Right. Then SLFRS 16 leases. So basically, in the lease, finance lease from the lessee's perspective is the one that we discuss in the company, right? Usually, the finance lease from the lessee's point of view, the lessor's finance lease, the lessee's, whether it's a finance lease or operating lease, doesn't matter. So in the books of lessee, we discuss here. So lessor's perspective, operating lease, financial lease differentiate, and that lessor's perspective, operating lease and finance lease together with the, so the accounting treatment will be tested separately with the standard question. මෙතනදී ලෙසෝගේ පැත්තේ financial statement, ලෙසීගේ පැත්ත අපි company account එකත් එක්ක check වෙනවා. ලෙසෝගේ පැත්තෙන් කොහමද leasing වලට accounts කරන්න කියන එකට. ඒ කියන්නේ leasing වල අපි කතා කරපු advance adjustments again. Right. So you can have this leasing. From the lessor's perspective, to differentiate this finance lease, operating lease, then the accounting treatment for leases from lessor's perspective, right, which will be tested with the leasing. Then LKS 19, we discussed last week. Employee benefit. So it will be tested from this employee benefit, accounting for employee benefit. We had this activity 4, and I think we are having this activity 5. Make a තියෙනවා අපිට, right? So can you take a 5 minutes and attempt this activity 5? අපි ගිය සතියේ activity 4 එකෙන් නතර කරේ මට මතක හැටියට නේ. Activity 5 එක හැදුවේ නැහැ. Right? You just attempt the activity 5 then. Take a 5 minutes and attempt. right? Now this one, the following information has been extracted from the accounting records of Global PLC. Present value of defined benefit obligation, 2022 year end 5,550, opening 4,800. Fair value of the defined benefit plan asset, 4,550 end of the year and 3,950 last year. Due to change in plan, present value of defined benefit obligation as at 1st April 2021, beginning of the current year, increased to 5 million. Now opening obligation 4.8 million. Plan revise. That means, say, for example, now if you take the Sri Lankan rule, the gratuity is payable 50% of the last month's salary of the employee multiplied by number of years work. The government rule, change the rule, instead of 50%, 55%. Then you have to increase your defined benefit obligation opening balance. So here 4.8 million increased to 5 million. That should be beginning of the year. That is something new which was not there in the activity 4, but we had in the last week, right? But I want you to attempt it. You might make a mistake, but you will remember it now. Right? So we'll take these two and repeat it. Right. Now defined benefit obligation opening balance 4,800. So 4.8 million opening balance. And defined benefit plan asset, our investment portfolio for this, we have 3,950 opening balance. Now we revise the plan to 5,000. So you take it as expense of the current period, estimate change. Past service cost, not a current service cost. Past service cost you charge to P&L, 200. So you make it to 5,000. 5,000. Then we are spending current service cost 770,000. The increase in the present value of defined benefit obligation arising from employee service during the current year. මේ අවුරුද්දක් වැඩ කරාම මේගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා obligation එක company එකේ 770. That is expense charged to P&L, current service cost. Then defined benefit obligation, මේක එන්න ඕනේ මීට කලින් අපි දාමු දෙවෙනි එක contribution. Right, contribution එක හම්බ වෙනවා plan එකට cash වලින් ගෙවනවා 900. Cash credit defined benefit plan asset debit cash credit. Then during the year 750 paid for the employees retired out of the plan asset. The asset එකෙන් ගෙවන්නේ investment portfolio මේ fund එක ගෙවන්නේ. So when they pay, credit that asset, debit the obligation. ඊට පස්සේ අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් current service cost එක 4ට. Then interest. Now this is interesting. You are given the applicable discount rate 10%. Normally we are taking opening balance into 10%, but present value of defined benefit obligation beginning of the year 4,800. Very first day we revise it into 5,000. So interest should be calculated for the 5,000, not 4,800. Right? ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේක හැදුවා නම් ඊය සතියේ විදිහට මේකට 480 දාලා තියෙන්න ඇති. Right? එහෙම වුණා නම් මේ mistake එක මතක හිටිනවා, you won't do that in the examination. This is interest. ඒ වගේම asset එකේ opening balance එක 10% interest එකක් ගන්න ඕනේ. That is interest income. Take it number 6. Then finally, carried forward balance of defined benefit obligation 5,550, carried forward balance of defined benefit plan asset 4,550. So when you balance the obligation, defined benefit obligation, there's a difference of 30 that you take to other comprehensive income. Defined benefit plan asset, there's a difference of 55 you take to other comprehensive income. So when it's come to this interest and the other comprehensive income, actuarial gain or loss, you take the net. So statement of profit or loss, past service cost 200, current service cost 770. Interest on defined benefit plan, expense 500, income 395, you have to show the net. And other comprehensive income, actuarial gain, we have a gain 55, loss 30, net 25. Right? Then if you take the statement of financial position, we can show the defined benefit obligation net of this defined benefit plan asset, net obligation. So you should be able to prepare these two accounts, defined benefit obligation account, defined benefit plan asset account, and provide the extracts, financial statement extracts. Right. Then the LKS 12, we had LKS 12 income tax. They are the main area we covered the deferred tax. Right? Deferred tax. Normal income tax adjustment tested with the company account. And deferred tax part will be tested with this question. So they are gradually I explain this deferred tax adjustment from exercise 1 to 5. So if you take exercise 5, that cover the full part, right? Full content of the determining the carrying amount, tax base, and identifying taxable and deductible temporary difference. So based on that, calculating deferred tax asset and deferred tax liability, right? So that aspect covered in exercise 5. Exercise 5 පුළුවන් නම් ඊට කලින් ඒවා ටික බොහෝ දුරට පුළුවන්, right? 4 and 5. මොකද 4 වලත් තියෙනවා පොඩි reversal එකත් එක්ක එන part එක. 5 එක comprehensive. Right? The 4 and 5 පුළුවන් නම් මෙතන examination එකට දාලා examination level එක cover වෙනවා. Then these examples are important where that different scenarios, because those examples what we discuss activities about property, plant and equipment, carrying amount and tax base. In addition to that, different type of other asset liabilities, there can be difference between carrying amount and tax base that might result in taxable and deductible temporary difference. Right? So you should be familiar with these examples. And finally, impairment. We had impairment discussion last week. Impairment of assets. Under that, impairment of basic asset tested with company accounts. So the impairment of cash generating unit, you should be familiar with. So this activity 4, 5, 6, and 7, 6, 7, 8, right? Activity 5, 6, 7, and 8 discuss about cash generating unit with goodwill and with some assets are not subject to impairment. And with some assets, we have separate recoverable amount within the cash generating unit. If the fair value less cost of disposal of an asset is available, the maximum impairment loss should be limited to that fair value, up to that fair value. Right? So make a GST අපි කතා කරේ exercise 8, 6, 7, 8 මේ තුන පුළුවන් නම් right. So මේකේ තියෙනවා impairment වල එන්න පුළුවන් cash generate unit එක එන්න පුළුවන් scenarios. ඊට අමතරව ඔයාලට සාමාන්‍ය මේකේ theoretical part එක clear වෙන්න ඕන. කොහොමද impairment එකක් කරන්නේ, right? What is impairment, right? The impairment එක අඳුරගන්න indicators, right? Those aspects, theoretical aspect also you should know. Right. So any question up to this point you can ask. මෙතන ලකුණු 80ක මේ part එක. Before move to the last part, any question? මොනවා හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, right. So then the final part. The question number 4. Financial statement analysis. Which is for 20 marks. So financial statement analysis, we discussed different type of ratios, profitability, liquidity, working capital management, then long-term financial stability, and the investors ratios. So you will be tested one question, calculation and interpretation of accounting ratios and the benefits and limitation of these ratios. Right, so you'll be tested 4 questions covering 100 marks. Answer all questions. So company question, you need a practice, right? Basically all questions you need a practice. Company question, if you are not practice, you will not be able to work out during the time available. Right, standard, you should know the standards application, right? Even company accounts, we are applying some standards. So you need that standard application. And some standards we have covered in the assignment part. So we will not be tested them separately in the final examination. So this is how you will be evaluated in your final examination. Any question?
Sir, investment ratios did we discuss?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Investment ratios did we discuss? Investment ratios.
We didn't discuss the investment ratios.
I think no,
Yes, sir.
Ratios වල investment ratios ටික කතා කරේ නැද්ද?
No, sir.
Okay, if that is the case, that since we have out of time, right? So we'll be testing from the remaining original. I think we have about 15 ratios, right? So we have a advantage. So we'll be testing from the profitability, liquidity, working capital management, and long-term financial stability. So you should remember the formula, right? Formula දෙන්නේ නැහැ accounting undergraduate accounting paper එක, right? So you are expected to know the formulas and interpretation of them. So සමහර ඒවා calculate කරලා interpret කරන්න තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. සමහර ඒවා ratio වල තොරතුරු දීලා ඒ හරහා interpret කරන්න තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. And you should know the meaning of each ratios and the main limitation of accounting ratio, those aspects. So I will go through this if we have not taken this last part. the advantages, the benefits and limitation. Now, accounting ratios we can use to assess the profit earning ability. The profitability ratios measures the profit earning ability of a business, right? There are profitability ratios. We can use those profitability ratios to measure profit earning ability of a business. Then we have liquidity ratios. We can use liquidity ratios to measure business's ability of settling short-term liabilities. How well business, when it's come to ability of settling short-term liabilities, we can use accounting ratios to assess that. Then how well business manage their current assets and current liabilities. Efficiency of managing working capital. You can measure using accounting ratios. Then we can use accounting ratios to measure the financial stability of the business. Whether the business is stable in the long run. And these ratios can be used by investors in deciding whether they can invest in ordinary shares of a company. For investment decisions, these ratios can be used by investors. But you should know there are certain limitations of these ratios. Ratios are useful, but when we are using, you should know some limitations are there. One limitation is all these ratios are calculated based on historical information available in the financial statement, past information. So it's about the past, but we are taking decision about the future. That's a limitation. Accounting ratios we calculate based on publicly available financial statement, not about the budgeted information. Then if something went wrong in the financial statement, if financial statement contain errors or intentionally manipulated, overstating profit, understating liabilities or something like that, ratios are adversely affected by those manipulations. Then different organizations may use different accounting policies, different accounting estimates, judgments. So ratios are affected by these judgments, different accounting estimates and policies. So which is also a kind of limitation. Then in certain cases, some accounting ratios become meaningless with negative value. Especially now when you calculate interest cover ratio, EBIT divided by interest. If we have loss before interest, then no point of calculating interest cover. Right? Profit before tax එකම negative නම් loss before tax නම් තියෙන්නේ. ඒකට interest add back කරනවා කිව්වම that distort the picture. Right? Return on equity වගේ එකකදී if the equity become negative, right? Negative equity, accumulated losses, as a result equity become negative, so no point calculating return on equity. Another thing that which has not listed here, some of the assumptions used in accounting ratios are not realistic. That's another limitation which is not listed here. Some of the assumptions used in accounting ratio calculations are unrealistic. Now, in inventory turnover, debtors turnover, creditors turnover, we assume all debtors, all cash, all sales made on credit, which is not actual scenario. Creditors turnover, creditors payment period, we take all creditors, all purchases made on credit. That may not be the real scenario. And we take a simple average, opening and closing inventory divided by 2. And we assume that is the average inventory available throughout the year, which may not be the case. So some of the assumptions we use are not accurate. And finally, the accounting ratios ignore qualitative factors. It's basically quantitative, right? So the employee motivation, their talent, right? Impact of the brand, some incidents happen to the business might create adverse impact to the brand, which is not measured in the financial statement. So qualitative factors are ignored. Okay, so this is all what we were planning to discuss in this discussion, right? So hope that you will perform well at the examination, but you have to get ready for the examination, right? Freehand will exam ලියන්න බෑ. මේ financial reporting වගේ subject ගත්තාම standards ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා. Consolidation කියන්නේ අර parent subsidy දෙක නිකම්ම එකතු කරන එක නෙමෙයි. මේකේ ලකුණු එන්නේ adjustments වලට. Right? You need to do the adjustments. Right? මේ ලකුණු 20න් මේ දෙක එකතු කරනවා ඉතරක් තිබ්බ සමහර ලකුණු දෙකක් තුනක් හම්බෙන්න පුළුවන්. The rest is for the adjustment. Some people just write the parent subsidy. Right? But associate එක තියෙනකොට associate is not consolidating. Associate should be accounted using equity method. මම discuss කරපු examination type questions ටික නැවත බලන්න. Since you have the recorded version, right? You have an advantage. නිසා lecture recordings ටික නැවත go through කරලා if you have any doubt, you can get it clear. So I hope that you will perform well at the examination. But make sure you prepare for the examination, right? So the subjects refer වෙනවා සෑහෙන students ලා. final exam එකට ඔයාලා minimum එක ගන්න ඕනේ pass rate.
Sir, පොඩි doubt එකක්.
ඔව් කියන්න.
Sir, අපිට මේ online කරන්න බැරිද? මේ exams ටික.
ඒ කියන්නේ
ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් අපිට දැන් ගෙදර ඉඳන් exam ටික එහෙම කරන්න
no option. Right? Online examination is not available at the moment, right? It was only conducted during the COVID period, no? Because this is not an online program,
yeah.
right? So this is normally
okay, sir.
right. Okay, right. So with that, we'll wind up today's session as well as our lecture series. So thank you very much for attending the lectures and wish you all very best for the examination.